Assalamu alaikum and greetings to you all. Before I present my papers, I would like to thank very much to Tan Sri Datuk Yusufaran for his valuable remarks and insight to the audiences which he has given on the palm oil industry as a whole. Let me tell about Bangladesh first in my few slides. Bangladesh is a country of 1,000 rivers, like 1,000 islands in Indonesia. It's a country with 1,000 rivers and very fertile soil, which is accumulated through the monsoon season. And during the season, Bangladesh, almost 2/3 of the country goes underwater for a very brief period. And this alluvial soil which comes in, brings in with the water from the Himalayas. So that in itself makes Bangladesh a very fertile land. And in this context, I would like to say now Bangladesh population is 170 million. And if you think of the density, it's one of the most densely populated country in the world, with almost close to 1,200 people per square kilometers. Way back in the 70s, before our independence in 71, our population was 75 million. And during that time, we used to produce rice is our staple food. Rice, fish is our staple food. There was a shortage of 4 million tons, and that used to be imported. That 4 million tons needed to be imported to feed the people in this part of the world, in Bangladesh, what is now Bangladesh. But now, after 50 years, the population has more than doubled, and it is 170 million living on the same space of land. We have doubled our rice cultivation to 38 million tons. Fish to 4.5 million tons. Feeding our own people, no need to be imported. And we are also self-sufficient in the production of vegetables. So let me talk about the demographic profile of the country. Bangladesh is a very young population. Almost 46% of the population are under the age of 24. And if you talk of the working people, that is up to the age of 50, 60, if I consider, almost 75% of the people are working, and aged above 60, 65 are only 7 to 15%. So that in itself speaks of the country's potential to move forward. The young population, amongst the younger generation, 94% of the population of this group are literate. And the technical education level in this country is improving, both to a national standard, and also there are institutions which provides international standard educations. If kindly go to the next slide. If you talk of GDP, Bangladesh GDP is $409 billion nominal value. But if you talk of purchasing power parity, it's fairly 1.07 trillion. It's fairly a large size economy. That in itself talk of the production, the local produce that is there. So as a result, the purchasing power parity is very encouraging in Bangladesh. If you look at the growth chart, in 2019, Bangladesh was growing above 8%. But come 2020, with this COVID-19, we took a beating, and like every country in the world, it came down to 3.5, because from 25th of March onward, the lockdown started in Bangladesh. And industries were closed, working partially with half labor force. And as a result, up to third quarter, we were under this COVID. From fourth quarter, it started to open up, and then we showed some signs. And in 21, we managed to improve ourselves from 2020 situation to 2021 to 5.8%. This is the government figure. And in 2022, as per IMF, we see a growth of 6.9%. But Bangladesh government is very optimistic. They are projecting 7.2% plus growth. Can you move over to the next slide, please? Bangladesh per capita income is $2,500, but on a purchasing power parity, it is $6,380. And we have a reserve of $48 billion. And as I mentioned earlier, that of this 170 million people, the younger generation consists of the bulk of the population. And by the estimates, there are almost 15 million people working abroad from Bangladesh. And they send an annual remittance of $25 billion. That's through the formal channel. And through informal channel is close to that figure. 50% of the figure comes through informal channels. And Bangladesh, can we go to the previous slide, please? Bangladesh exports. We are the second largest exporter of garments after China. In 2022, we are looking at a target of $50 billion in exporting garments, plus another $10 billion in other exports. So we see a $60 billion export from Bangladesh. Next slide, please. Now let me give you a 2021 scenario of edible oil in Bangladesh. Total imports of palm oil is 1,350,000 tons, and CDSBO were imported 760,000 tons. And from the local crushing of beans, which is being imported, is another 400,000 tons. And small portion of mustards are growing in certain parts of the country. That comprises around 80,000 tons. So 52% of the total edible oil market in Bangladesh is from palm oil, and 29% and from soybean imported, and 15.6% is from solvent extractions. Please to the next slide. So let's see in 21, palm oil 54%, soybean 46%. That's still encouraging for palm. 54 and 46. And I'll be showing a slide way back to 2013. That's a very interesting slide. Next slide, please. In 2013, 30% were soybean oil and 70% were palm. And in terms of imports, 1,260,000 tons of palm oil were imported in 2013 from both Indonesia and Malaysia, and 500,000 plus were from South America, CDSBO. So 70-30 ratio was in 2013. Can you go back to the previous slide? 54-46. So palm, to the extent where it should have grown, did not grow. Let me see what are the reasons. Why hasn't it grown to the extent where soybean being always $120 to $150 more a premium than palm? I'm not talking of 2021. In general, $120 to $150 premium over palm. Palm should have grown, but it did not grow to that extent. Can we move to the next slide, please? So in 2013, 70% palm, 30% soybean. In 2021, 54% palm and 46% soybean oil. Why? It's because there has been a growth in dairy industry, poultry, and meat industry. Its share, because of with the increased earnings of the people, there was need for enhanced protein level. And this industry had really developed from after 2013 till 2021. And it's growing. The meal demand is there. On an average, last year in 2021, beans to the extent of 2.2 million tons of beans were imported from South America, and around 300,000 tons of meal were imported. But with this growing demand, we see in 2022, the soybean would be to the extent of 3 million ton would be imported soybean. So of this 3 million ton, if we get an average of 18.5% oil, this would be met. And country has the capacity of solvent extraction of 5 million tons. This in itself is a challenge to the palm oil industry for growth of palm in Bangladesh. Palm is a universal oil in Bangladesh. It is known from a small shop in the village to a superstore in the city. But in 2021, because palm oil prices in general, particularly in lesser developed countries like Bangladesh, where we see is highly sensitive, price sensitivity is more, and to a certain extent, political sensitivity is also there. Government always keep a watch on the increase in price of oil, and that's also considered to be one of the index of government's success and failure to an extent for not being able to control the prices. So the sensitivity of the price is there related to oil, and in particular, palm oil. So here, my question to our friends in Indonesia and in Malaysia, are they harnessing the potential of Bangladesh market for palm oil industry, palm oil in market in Bangladesh? That's the thing that I think all of us will have to work together. Palm oil is a healthy oil, no doubt. People are fully aware of. It's a universal oil. It can be used as Datu Tansri has mentioned. You cook with a biryani or you cook a good fish, the flavor of the fish or the biryani remains enhanced or intact at least, and it doesn't influence the food. So that's a big advantage. And with that, palm should be moving forward. But price sensitivity is a question. Now, with this price that has been prevailing for the last 2 years, the palm oil prices, it has gone to beyond the limit of the purchasing power by the general public. Here, I would like to mention in 2020, there had been a demand destruction in Bangladesh due to COVID. And that effect had truly come into palm oil, not to the extent in soybean oil. Why? The soybean oil, whatever had been consumed, was in branded form and mostly limited to urban and district level towns, not to the rural areas. But palm oil is wide across the country. That mostly consumed in what we call dhaba or horecas. That is one of the major outlets, and to the food processing industry. And food processing industry also had taken a hit because most of the shops were remaining closed due to COVID. So their production had dropped. And as a result, the demand destruction came mostly on the palm olein or RBD palm oil. So here I would ask our good partners in Malaysia and in Indonesia, where we had been doing business for long. And Bangladesh people are very familiar with these two countries as a friendly and brotherly country. And we look forward that how the palm oil potential can be enhanced in Bangladesh market. Thank you very much to you all for participating. Thank you. Thank you all.